kick us off.
Thank you, David, and what an exciting opportunity to really talk about the beginning of the season. You know, a year ago, I got in front of you to talk about Daytona Rising, but what I talked to you about was the vision, the imagination, what it would take if we could reimagine a Daytona International Speedway. Today, we get to talk about reality. Reality in our world is concrete, steel, hard hats, hard work, because we are changing what the Daytona International Speedway is. 6 months ago, the board at ISC voted to approve a $400 million investment in this property, the largest investment in our company's history, and we kicked it off with Daytona Rising, the Daytona Rising 500, a groundbreaking like none other, in which Trevor Bayne and Greg Biffle won our competition among drivers with heavy equipment and had the chance to be the official groundbreakers for this special project. After 6 months, I can tell you it has been amazing. The amount of steel that's gone in, the concrete, ultimately 60 million pounds of concrete in the ground. And really to show you what that's like, I've got a little video to give you a little time-lapse version of what the work's been like the last couple months. So if we could cue the video, please. So after 6 months, again, reality now is about changing the experience for our fan for the next 50 years and that reimagining of an American icon. We're excited that on top of all of the project that we've been working on, we get to kick off NASCAR season. We've got some great things planned for this year. The Sprint Unlimited, our second year now with our partnership with Sprint, in which fans can determine the format of that event. What a fantastic opportunity to engage our customer and get them involved in what we do. The changing of the Bud Duels to a primetime event, the first time in our history that the qualifying races for the Daytona 500 will now occur under the lights on Thursday of race week. And lastly, the Daytona 500. We've made some great announcements, whether it's the Thunderbirds, the Luke Bryan pre-race concert. We are excited and ready to give fans a great experience. So I'll end with this. As NASCAR continues to reinvest in their sport and work on technology and those investments, we're doing the same thing in Daytona. We're planting our flag in the ground and spending $400 million to remake that customer experience and provide our fans the best experience in racing. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it today.
Thanks, Joey. Those of us who were lucky to be in Daytona last weekend got to enjoy an amazing Rolex 24 at Daytona. The facility looks great. The steel is awesome. And it was a good way to kick off the inaugural Tudor United Sports Car Championship. So congratulations, Joey, on that. So we look forward, obviously, to the Sprint Unlimited and Daytona 500 coming up. Our next speaker today is NASCAR Vice President of Public Affairs and Multicultural Development, Mr. Marcus Jadot.
Thank you, David. I'm honored to introduce a remarkable group of young athletes who've earned an opportunity to join the NASCAR Drive for Diversity initiative. With the unwavering support of partners like Toyota, Goodyear, Sprint, and Sunoco, the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program has made significant strides in expanding the talent pool in NASCAR. Through our partnership with Max Siegel and his team at Rev Racing, NASCAR is committed to providing world-class training for young, promising female and minority drivers. The NASCAR Drive for Diversity program is now widely acknowledged as a leading driver and crew member development program in our sport and has been critical in our positioning of NASCAR to expand our fan base in emerging markets around our country and beyond our borders. The drivers that you'll see today, like drivers across our sport, are the face of our sport. And this group gives us an opportunity to see what our future could look like. In 2013, we saw outstanding performances from participants in the program as well as alumni. Daniel Suarez contended for the championship in the K&N East program, as well as in the NASCAR Mexico Series. Darrell Wallace Jr. made history, becoming the first African American to win in a NASCAR National Series event in 50 years. And Kyle Larson, whose meteoric rise through the ranks set a new standard as he earned a truck win, secured the Rookie of the Year award in the Nationwide Series, and became the first NASCAR D4D graduate to secure a full-time ride in the Sprint Cup Series. While we're excited about the program's accomplishments, we're even more excited about the future. The 2014 Drive for Diversity class was selected from a pool that represented 14 states and states in Mexico as well, and arguably is the strongest that we've had yet. The drivers introduced today will compete in the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series, as well as the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. And now it's my pleasure to introduce that group. First up is 24-year-old Ryan Gifford from Winchester, Tennessee, who joins Rev Racing for the 5th year. Ryan will compete in the K&N Series this year. Last year, he was a member of the NASCAR Next program and made his National Series debut in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, finishing 9th at Iowa in a Richard Childress Racing car. Next up is Daniel Suarez from Monterrey, Mexico. Danny will join Rev Racing for the 2nd year. He is also a member of the NASCAR Next program and recorded his first K&N win in July. Next is Jay Beasley from Las Vegas, Nevada, who joins Rev Racing for the 1st year. Jay won the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series late model track title at Las Vegas Speedway and the Nevada State Championship, recording 8 victories in 14 starts. He also earned the 2013 Wendell Scott Trailblazer Award. Next is Sergio Pena from Winchester, Virginia, who returns to Rev Racing after a year away from the program. Sergio has recorded 3 career K&N East wins, and we're happy to have him return to the program. Next up is Devin Amos, a 22-year-old from Rancho Ricardo, New Mexico. He joins the team for the 2nd year and will race in the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series. Finally, Paige Decker from Eagle River, Wisconsin. She joins Rev Racing for the 1st year after competing in the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series. I'd also like to introduce Max Siegel and NASCAR CEO Brian France to the stage. Thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2014 class. Thank you.
All right, we have factored in the ability for you guys to tweet for the next few minutes. So we are actually going to hold till 1:15. ESPN and Fox Sports 1 has asked to go live with Brian's announcement. So if you don't mind, we will be back up in a couple of minutes. And the good news is you won't have to see me again. Thank you.
that I could stay forever this young. Not afraid to close my eyes. Life's a game made for everyone, and love is the prize. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. 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 I didn't know.
Good afternoon. This is a historic day for NASCAR. We're grateful to have you all here. Thankful for your coverage this whole week. And to Scott and your team and our team, everybody that's coordinated this tour, congratulations, very successful. Today's announcement is the product of a lot of very good dialogue over many years with our industry stakeholders, our fans, and others who make NASCAR go. We thank them all for their passion and their input, and we're excited about what we're going to announce here today. I'm going to introduce our chairman, Brian France, in just a minute, but I just want a little housekeeping. Following Brian's remarks, we'll bring up Brian and Mike Helton for a moderated Q&A, and we know that there are going to be a number of questions today. We'll have a lot of executives available in the interview room after, but we'll try to get to as many answers as we can today, and my team will certainly be able to follow up with you on anything that you have on clarity on. With that, I'll now turn it over to NASCAR's Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Brian France.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an announcement that will help define the future of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. You know, NASCAR's core responsibility is to always look down the road and position the industry to excite our fans with the highest level of competition in the world. We're also working closer than ever with Sprint, our auto manufacturers, Ford, Toyota, and Chevrolet, and all of our business partners to continue to grow and enhance the sport. And central to that is responsibility is making sure we put on the best and most exciting racing product on the track each and every week. That's what our fans expect, that's what we expect, and they tell us that every day. For more than 3 years, we've been contemplating ways to elevate the entire NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship format in the following ways. First, we've talked about putting greater emphasis on winning races, something our fans overwhelmingly want. Second, make competing for and running for a championship much simpler and much simpler to understand. Third, expand opportunities for more drivers to compete for the championship while ultimately rewarding the most worthy battle-tested champion. We've looked at a number of concepts through fan research, models, and simulations, and also maintained extensive dialogue with our drivers, teams, tracks, and all of our partners. We now have arrived at a format that makes every race matter more. It'll promote compelling competition for wins all season long. And ultimately, it'll reward a very worthy champion at the end of each season with the best of the best winner-take-all showdown. So here's how the new championship format for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series will work. First, the chase grid, essentially our playoff bracket, will now expand to 16 drivers. And they'll be all set at the conclusion of the Richmond event. Winning races will be the primary criteria to qualifying for the chase grid, with the season-long leading points leader as a secondary and only other criteria should there be fewer than 16 winners in the first 26 races. The first 3 races of the chase will now be known as the Challenger Round. A win in any of these races guarantees advancement into the next round. The leading 12 drivers in wins and points will advance after these races, while the lowest 4 drivers will be eliminated from the championship. All points will then be reset for the next round. The next 3 races in the chase will be known as the Contender Round. 8 more drivers will advance, and 4 drivers will be eliminated after the 6th race of the chase. Again, a win in any of those events advances a driver to the next round. The next 3 races will be called the Eliminator Round. 4 drivers will emerge from this round out of Phoenix to compete in the championship event. Race winners from the Eliminator Round and the fastest or the least, or the highest rather, remaining points earner. The final event, the final event of the season will settle the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. No math, no bonus points for leading laps, previous wins. It's going to be the first of 4 drivers to cross the finish line. And that'll define the NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. And you know what? That's as simple as it gets. And this new format rewards winning. It elevates the importance of every race across the entire schedule. It ultimately rewards those drivers and teams who perform at the highest level when the championship is on the line. The new chase will be thrilling, easy to understand, and help drive our sports competition to a whole new level. So thank you very much for attending today. I'm going to turn it back over to Brett Jukes.
I want to go ahead and invite NASCAR President Mike Helton to the stage. While he's coming up, just remind you, this graphic and all the materials will be available on the media website or from my team somewhere around the room tonight. Are we live? Okay. We're going to start with just a couple of opening questions, and then we'll go to the media. So, Brian, obviously a big shift in the championship format. Can you share a little bit, characterize some of the discussions with the stakeholders and the process to getting here today?
Well, it started about 3 years ago when we first talked about some version of an elimination format. But that in itself wasn't appealing to us because we also wanted to deal with the points racing and change the proportion to making winning more important every race. So when we got all the facts together and we talked about how to qualify for the chase, this checked every box that we could have possibly looked at. It's going to elevate racing. It's going to make winning the most important thing by a wide margin. It's going to change the strategies. It's going to allow for drivers, and we're going to talk about more of this, if they have a bad race in the chase, in the current chase, it's very difficult for them to move on. This will be different, and everything is focused around winning, and that's exactly what our fans want.
Good. Obviously a lot of research done, a lot of dialogue, but some of our longtime traditional fans have voiced their concerns. What would you say to them with this new format?
Well, we understand that. We have millions of fans, and we have some very loud and passionate fans, especially when we change anything. And we understand that. The vast majority of the fans that we communicated with and I think we're the best in sports at staying close to our fan base, really love this. And they love it because they really don't like points racing at the end of the day. Although consistency is important in our sport, and it remains important. It's just less important. So they like that, and they understand winner-take-all formats, and they understand being the best down the stretch. And you can note any of the other examples of that, where Tony Stewart one year made that incredible run, and they love those moments. And this is going to elevate the opportunity for more drivers to have those moments.
Speaking of longtime passionate fans, Mike, you want to add anything to that?
Only that I think when the chatter first started getting out that we were considering making significant changes, obviously if we didn't go pursue opinions and ideas, we were getting a lot of opinions and ideas about it. And as we were able to explain our thought process, I think the acceptance of it and the fact that, yeah, that does sound exciting. That does sound like it comes together. And so I think today, as we're now able to go public with all the details of it, that the fans will get the opportunity to digest it all and will understand it. I've been an avid fan for 50 years, and there's been times in my career at NASCAR I've had to set my avid fan hat off to make tough decisions. This process, this decision, where we're going with the grid and the challenge round and the contender round and the eliminator round to get to our championship is exciting to me professionally, but it's even more so exciting to me as an avid fan.
Good. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions. We'll start right here with Jim Utter, and we'll go to Alan Cavana and Jenna Fryer. Please state your name and affiliation.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer, for either Mike or Brian. Obviously, for many years now, you guys have been reluctant to take race wins away as a penalty, particularly in the Sprint Cup Series. Now that the sport is basically going all in on making winning the most important thing, is there going to be any kind of matching aspect from the policing standpoint that people might just do anything to get a win, and since they haven't been taken away previously, they would still get to keep it?
We'll officiate the sport the same way. Now, we get the fact that this puts pressure on us officiating, and we feel like we're capable of stepping up to it. Currently, or up through the Chase through 2013, we had a clause where a win could be removed as a part of your eligibility to get into the Chase. Some of that gets tweaked a little bit, but the officiating part of our sport stays the same. And depending on, and we've got some other announcements that'll be coming later in another week or so about some of the new gen competition that talks about rules and regulations and how transparent they'll become going forward. And all that'll be made clear in that.
Over that.
Alan Cavana, NASCAR.com. Jimmy Johnson told us he was surprised at this announcement only because he had heard other options being discussed. How many options did you have for implementing a new system, and why was this ultimately the right one?
We had several options, including not doing it at all. We had conveyed these options at one time or another with all the teams. It's only when when everything came together for us, and the big thing is winning. We've been talking about that for a while. And the reason we're talking about that so much is our fans are telling us, we really value consistency, but boy, do we like it when there's more risk-taking and there's more incentive to win. The drivers will race to whatever format we have. And if that's a consistency-based model, that's how they will try to adapt, because that may be the best way to achieve their goal. This is pretty clear. You have to win, and you have to compete at a higher level. You're probably going to have to take more chances, and different strategies are going to unfold. But that's why we did it.
I would go Jenna, Wolfgang, and then over to Holly Kane.
Jenna Fryer, AP. Brian, a few specific scenarios have come up under this emphasis on winning. One was the Watkins Glen race last year where Brad Keselowski did not have a win and was chasing Kyle Busch. Under this new scenario, is the expectation there for Keselowski to move him and get that win, to lock himself into the chase? And is that going to be acceptable by NASCAR?
We're real clear about this, whether this format or any format. If it's late in the race and you got a faster car, we expect some contact. We expect, obviously there are limits, but that's always part of NASCAR, to have some version of contact late in the race. Will this bring more of that? I'm sure it will to some level, but that's NASCAR.
I'll go over to Wolfgang, Holly, and then Nate Ryan.
Wolfgang Monzer from Germany, Rennsport Press. Brian, I have more question concerning qualifying, which is a little bit surprising for me. It looks very similar, nearly identical to Formula One. Did you went in touch, if this is correct, with your colleagues over in the Formula One business? And also I want to double check race weekend. Is it true that per car, per team, is only one race engine allowed? And if so, do you not think it could be a very big risk for engine failure? I mean, when you have to run an engine the whole race weekend, because as I understand, the break between the segments, qualifying segment, is relatively short.
The first question about our new qualifying process is we didn't seek out to duplicate anybody else's formats. We simply created one, and based on experience, though, just like any other form of entertainment or sports, would take what it's seeing going on and create its own. But our new qualifying format was something that we've talked about for several years, and I won't sit here and tell you that we wouldn't sit and watch Formula One qualifying because we do. And did we pick up something off of that might be useful? Probably so. But ours is ours, and ours is the NASCAR Sprint Cup and Nationwide and Camping World Truck Series qualified now. Your second question, let me just say that all the things that you mentioned in your question can happen today. That's the magic of sports. It's the thrill of winning and the agony of defeat. And in our sport, you have the hardware elements and other elements that contribute to all of that. But a lot of the things that come up in scenarios that we work through and that others presented along the way before we finalized their decisions were very, very same things that can happen today, regardless of what the format is.
I will go Holly, Nate, and Marty Smith.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. As you're probably aware, there's been a lot of speculation this week leading up to today. And several drivers put it out there and wondered, might there be something in the future where the tracks are rotated because of this emphasis on winning? Is that something that you would look at in the future, is maybe changing up the schedule a bit in the chase? I know you get that question every year.
We do, and traditionally we like the continuity of our schedule, traditionally. And we will look at that, but right now we're focused on 2014.
And Nate Ryan, Marty Smith, and Bob Pockris.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Brian, I understand the emphasis on winning, and it certainly seems like you need a victory to get into the chase. But once you're in the chase, aren't there scenarios here where a driver could advance through each round without a win and then win the championship without a victory at Homestead? And given that, is there a danger that your four contenders could have trouble at Homestead and win a title with a mediocre finish?
That can happen now. And there are any number of scenarios. What's probable is not that, but there are plenty of scenarios that we could sit here all day and talk about. But the most likely scenario is, and it is the most likely scenario now, that the best teams at the right moment, and Jimmy Johnson's certainly been the best at that, they don't cruise into a championship. They're winning races in the final 10, and they're competing really hard at Homestead, especially when it's tight.
Marty Smith.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Brian, this is quite a swing for the fence by you and your staff. I'm just curious how much of this is about ensuring that NASCAR racing in the industry is relevant in the broader sports and entertainment landscape for an entire year?
Well, it helps us in that, and it helps us, when I said check all the boxes, I meant that. The avid fans like it because they don't particularly care for points racing, even though they understand it. The casual fans don't understand points racing, and they don't even understand when we go into Richmond often, with all the mathematical, you got to have a computer next to you to figure out who's in and who's out at a given moment. Clears all that off, and then emphasizes winning, which everybody understands. So this is appealing to everybody, and that's the beauty of, we wouldn't be making an announcement if we thought it just did a little bit of good, but maybe it did, or a lot of good, but possibly, didn't help one area of NASCAR. We wouldn't have done it. This checks all the boxes: winning, simplicity, makes the teams at the right time, just as they do now, by the way. Probably elevates it. Have to compete at a higher level, and that's not just the driver. Tony Stewart told me, I was complimenting him the other day about his big run a couple years ago in Miami, where he had to win the race, and he did. And he said, look, that was a team effort. He said, they got my car where I could do that, and they stepped up at the right time. This is a team sport, nonetheless, even though the driver wins the race. So it's going to force the teams to take more risk in the race. You're going to have to, fuel mileage or whatever you want to call it, or, different strategies. It's all going to unfold because, riding around and being pleased because the current format rewards consistency, and those days are going to be pretty much over.
Go to Bob, Claire B. Lang, and over to Lewis Frank.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. Brian, do you feel like you are taking a big risk with this decision? And if so, can you talk about weighing what risks you believe you are taking?
The biggest risk would be not to do it. When something checks every box and is so clear, and we've done our homework, hopefully, in how we've designed it. We've talked to all of our industry and most importantly our fans, because if they don't like what we do, then nothing matters. And overwhelmingly, they like what and the more they understand it, the better it gets. So the risk is for us, it's always for us not to figure out how to elevate racing and competition. We've talked about our rules packages. We're hard at work on that as well. And everything is designed around what you know about NASCAR: close, tight, tough competition, and this does it all.
Claire, Lewis, and then Pete Pistone.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Would you say this is the boldest decision that you have made in your tenure? And I want to add to that, what kind of reach-out sessions you personally had. I know some of the team owners said that you called them, and I know there were some meetings. You personally calling team owners and whatnot, what sorts of things did you hear?
Depends on who you talk to, right? It was mostly positive. I think, if you like the current format, you probably don't want to change anything, and that's understandable. But the more we could, and I talked to many track operators, certainly many drivers, certainly many owners, and we ultimately, Mike and I talked to everybody. And what was really good this week is we do our annual team owner driver meetings, when we really got to explain how their sponsors feel about it, how fans feel about it, and it sunk in. I think everything keeps getting better with the receptance with our drivers and our teams.
Lewis?
Yes. Lewis Frank of Reuters and AutoWeek.com. For either or both of you, Brian mentioned no bonus points for leading laps at Homestead. I was wondering, any consideration for removing a bonus point for leading a lap to help avoid a possible Richmond-like situation in the future? If there hasn't been consideration, why are you leaving it in?
Well, we took it out for the final race because we don't want a math contest to try to figure out how the fifth place guy who might have been, leading the other three drivers who were behind him could have lost the championship. So simplicity really matters at the final race. It's still part of the game, though. You still want to incentivize leading laps, going to the front. Obviously, we've incentivized leading the last lap dramatically, but we don't want to, I want to make sure during the course of the event that, leading a lap traditionally, that means something, and we want to make sure that it means something.
We'll go Pete, Reed Spencer, and over to Trip Mickle.
Pete Pistone, MRN.com, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Brian, this is the fourth change to the chase in the last 10 years. Any concern from NASCAR that the championship's integrity and credibility is compromised in some fans' minds?
I don't think so at all, but, things evolve. I think if you look at the other leagues, you look at the BCS has evolved, and they'll be having their own championship format this year. So these kind of things probably shouldn't go from one place to the next. They should evolve, because evolving means you're getting the best ideas at the moment, and if they're not good enough to make a change, then you don't. It's not surprising that something this important has evolved versus us just getting to the right place.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. This is for either Brian or Mike, and it's an eligibility question. If a driver checks Sprint Cup Series as his series that he's scoring points in, does he have to run a full schedule, or if he removes himself from competition for medical reasons, as Dale Jr. did a couple of years ago, is he still eligible for the chase by winning a race?
Yes, a driver has to participate in all the championship races in order to be eligible for the championship. There is a medical exception that could be made, but that doesn't assure that if that eligibility gets extended because of the timing of when it may or may not happen or how long the medical issue may exist. So these are the things that we'll be able to answer later on, one-on-ones with all the specific details around it, but that's the answer for now.
We'll go to Trip and then to George.
Brian, you talked a little about the modeling you did on this. Did you look at the impact it may have on ticket sales and also ratings, and what effect, if any, do you expect it to have on that?
Well, we wouldn't have done it if we didn't think that the interest level and our ability to bring in new fans, that this wouldn't be a positive thing for that. And while that, there are no, and nor should there be, a light switch that we can turn on or anybody can turn on to suddenly change, one metrics or another. But over time, as excitement builds and the moments, and I'm this is as excited as I've been, quite frankly, going into a season because of what all this means. And I believe that, our fan base, new fans, will see what we see around the corner, and when it happens, I think it makes NASCAR more special. That's a great thing.
Yeah, back here, Brian George Diaz, Orlando Sentinel. You had mentioned a few times about Game 7 moments. Did you basically feel it was time for NASCAR to become more of a traditional model in terms of establishing who the champion is for the season, whether baseball, football, whatnot?
Well, partially, but really this is unique to us. I mean, everybody has their own version. College basketball has a tournament, somebody else has a playoff system, somebody else has multiple game series and all. This is unique to us. It captures some of the similarities naturally, but it's very unique to us. And those four teams who make it to Homestead, Miami, will still have a full field of race cars to maneuver around and contend with. That's part of winning it. You got to beat everybody and then some. So This is unique to us, and as I say, elevates this championship and every event in a way that has never been possible for us.
We'll take one more right over here, and then I've got one closing one.
Right over here, Damian Sorlet with the Lynchburg News in Advance. The drivers who are eliminated through each round, how will they play out in terms of the point standings? Will that be where they're just competing against those 4 drivers based off the reseeding of the points, or will you try to clump them back together to have an opportunity to maybe finish top 10 and be a chance to go on the stage at Vegas?
Actually, and this is a good question, and this is a good foray for me to tell you, we got a great suggestion on that in our driver owner meetings by Kevin Harvick, as a matter of fact, who talked about that. And we had it originally where you know, you were if you fell out the first round, you know, you were going to finish no better than 13th. We changed that, so you'll run now really for 5th place. If everybody's fallen out but the final 4, then the rest of the chase contenders will run for you know, 5th place.
Good. One last question, and then I have a couple of more housekeeping things. Brian and Mike, this year, Goodyear will commemorate its 60th year as the official tire of NASCAR and Sunoco. This 10th year is the official fuel. Can you give comment on what it means to have partners like that for such a long haul?
Well, in this case, it's everything, because without their technology and being such a good partner, we wouldn't be able to run the events, or certainly we wouldn't have the kind of racing that we do. So they've just been tremendous partners, and they get the value of NASCAR, and we're very proud to have Goodyear for such a long time. That's tremendous.
Mike?
Yeah, it's good to have partners that have longevity to them, but it's even better if you have a partner that has longevity and excellence attached to it. So both Goodyear and Sunoco represent a very high-end product and they work very diligently with us to complement what we want to accomplish, and that's important. And we go into 2014, it's the 56th annual Daytona. It's the 55th annual Coca-Cola 600. And Marcus mentioned the other day that surprised me, this is the 32nd annual media tour. Those are big milestones, and so you can walk through the Hall of Fame and get the fact that this all didn't happen overnight, but the announcement we're making today is evidenced, I think, that 65 years later, NASCAR still wants to be relevant, still wants to be a leading edge form of entertainment and sports. And this is how you do that. You move the gauge, you move the level of excitement by making big decisions.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all.
Just before we dismiss over to the other room, I want to let you guys know, Steve O'Donnell, our EVP of Racing Operations, and Gene Stefanition will be available over there. Robin Pemberton, VP of Competition, as well as the 3 series directors, including your first chance probably to talk to Richard Buck, obviously Wayne Otten and Chad Little. Also get your first chance to speak with our new Chief Operating Officer, Brent Dewar, who will be in there with Steve Phelps. And we appreciate you being here. Again, please find a member of my team if you need further information or help with the graphics or whatnot. Thank you. Again, we'll see you in Daytona.